Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. I am Cage. This is very impromptu. If you're watching the video version of this, usually I have headphones on. Right now, I don't, which means I can't actually hear how the audio is picking up for when it becomes an audio thing, which is fine. Hey, if it's fucked up, hey, I ain't fixing it because I can't hear it. So there's that. I was prepping, news to talk about during this podcast, and I was going through all the news I had saved, and I was like, I thought there was a lot more. I thought there was a lot more to talk about, right? And there wasn't, but the reality is that there is a lot to talk about. It's just not news related, right? There is some news, so I'll go over the news. There's some stuff about Fantastic Four I want to talk about, and then of course there's Thunderbolts, which came out last week. There's Andor, season 2, episodes 4 through 9 now, and that stuff, Andor, Thunderbolts, I'm gonna wait to talk about until Chair is here, because that's the kind of stuff you really need to bounce off people, right? Because I can give you my opinion all day long and my interpretation of things, but he may have seen things I didn't. He may have different perspectives on things. It's all important, I think, right? Because if I'm just talking, you're just getting what my interpretation of things based on my perspective and life experiences and blah, blah, blah. And it's good to have someone else who might see things differently, who has different experiences, and, that is something I value. So while I could just talk about those things without him, I don't want to. So we'll probably end up talking about all of Andor, right? So we talked about the first 3 episodes already. So if you are interested, you can go back and listen to that one. And then when we talk about the rest, it'll probably actually be the rest, episodes 4 through 12, because it probably will be after all the final 3 episodes come out next week. So there's that. And then Thunderbolts as well. And I watched Thunderbolts. I don't think he has yet, but that'll be a fun conversation also. So today will be news and some stuff about Fantastic Four. And maybe I'll just start with the Fantastic Four stuff because, listen, there's a couple things that need to be acknowledged, right? First and foremost, how do I say this? First and foremost, if you've been paying attention, you kind of know what's going to happen in the Fantastic Four movie. That's not even what I wanted to say. That was on my mind too, but the really important thing here to understand is social media is not real life in most ways. Like, people on social media don't really represent society. Like, it's a small proportion of society that's even on social media. And if you go out in real life and talk to people, like, the problems that you see on social media are not real problems. And the main problems that you see on social media in regards to Fantastic Four are Silver Surfer and Johnny Storm. Now, that actually relates to one of the news articles I have coming up, because Beau DeMayo, who did the first season of X-Men 97, had some things to say about Johnny Storm and Marvel's treatment of him, which I'll get to. But when it comes to these two characters, people are upset about Silver Surfer being a woman, first and foremost, and Johnny Storm not being a womanizer, which I didn't think would ever be a problem. But that apparently is where people draw the line. Johnny Storm respecting women? Hey, nah, that is unacceptable. So I'll cover this in 2 parts. First, comic book accuracy. Second, opinions, right? The first part of that is, a lot of people will look at it and say, either, let's be honest, okay? Most people don't read comic books, and that's fine. It's not a gotcha to tell those people there's a female Silver Surfer in comics, right? That's not a gotcha. We think it is, right? But it's not, because it doesn't matter, right? And here's the thing: you have hypocrites on both sides, right? You have the people who will say, Johnny Storm is a womanizer in comics, therefore he must be a womanizer in movies. And then in the same sentence, they'll say, well, it doesn't matter that there's a female Silver Surfer in comics. This is Marvel's attempt to be woke and blah, blah, blah. Right? Both of those arguments are absurd, by the way. The reality is, it doesn't matter that it happened in comics because the movies are an interpretation, they're their own thing, and a lot of the stuff that happens in the films, while based on comics, is something new or something different in some way, shape, or form. And we have to take both of those things. Something is good or bad because of how it is, not because it's comic book accurate or because of this or that. Like, the value of something, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever, comes from the way it's done itself. So my problem with people's criticism so far of a woman Silver Surfer is that they're baseless. Like, until you've seen the movie, you don't know if it's good or bad. But people have already made up their minds, right? On social media, at least, right? They know, oh, it's going to be bad because there's a woman Silver Surfer, without looking at any of the context around it, without seeing the movie, without fully even understanding that this world, this Fantastic Four's world, is going to be destroyed anyway, because it's not in the MCU and we have to get them to the MCU somehow. And so all that's probably going to be just, laid out in front of you when the movie comes out. But people will make up their minds early if they want and say, well, the premise of a female Silver Surfer is insulting to me. And so they already have a problem with it. I get it. Like, there's a heightened political climate and people are on edge about everything. And so you have people on the extremes of all sides and they make problems where there really are no problems. When the movie comes out, it may be an awful decision. It may be an awful character. It may be whatever. But we don't know until we've seen the movie. And so, like I said, people can make up their minds early if they want. I think that's a mistake in general, but again, to each their own, you do you. Johnny Storm's the other one. Johnny Storm was a womanizer in comics, and he must be a womanizer, and because the actor came out and said they're taking a modern approach to Johnny Storm, it's woke nonsense again, striking the MCU and Disney, ruining classic beloved womanizing characters. Johnny Storm has his fair share of womanizing, but it really depends. Like, if you read early Fantastic Four, like 60s, 70s Fantastic Four, Johnny Storm really is kind of a kid. Like, he's like a teenager almost. And so it's a little different. But he's also not a major womanizer, especially in the times those were written. Like, he wasn't out there like macking on women, like in any way that you wouldn't go, yeah, that's how juvenile people go after women, right? Like, he is very attracted to women, but he's not like, people have this idea of him because of Chris Evans' version of the character. But in the 1960s and 70s, he wasn't sleeping around with a bunch of women. Like, he had a steady girlfriend at a certain point in those comics. There's also, the introduction of the Inhumans where like he wanted to pursue Crystal because of how she looked. And later in comics, he does marry her. But like, he wasn't like trying to like be a womanizer with Crystal. Like, he genuinely wanted to help her and he was concerned about her and she thought she was beautiful. And that's kind of like, he wasn't trying to even sleep with her. Like, people think Johnny Storm is this like dog that's out there just trying to sleep with every woman he sees, and it's like, not really. And especially around the time of when this story takes place, I don't know. Like, and I don't really understand the, oh my god, they're gonna ruin Johnny Storm argument. But we'll get to the article when we get there. And then I remember seeing when the new trailer dropped for Fantastic Four, there were people who were concerned that Sue Storm, they might repeat her passing out with a bloody nose kind of thing from the Jessica Alba versions of the movies. But it's not. That one isn't a movie thing. That one is like a comic book thing. Like, when she overextends herself with her powers, she does tend to pass out at times. And in this movie, she's pregnant, so it wouldn't surprise me if she overextended herself and passed out. And that's really a mechanic of, if she didn't, she'd be kind of OP, to be honest. Like, her abilities are pretty overpowered. It's hard for, her to hold a force field forever because it takes a lot of concentration, and if she will pass out eventually. So yeah, anyway, those are just some initial thoughts. Some news first. I'm not going to bring these up on screen, I'm just going to read them. Ryan Coogler revealed the reason he delayed Black Panther 3, and it really was to put out his movie Sinners, the movie that just recently came out, which has been, reviewed wildly positively. And yeah, so I'll read the article. So, the sentiment coming out of Black Panther Wakanda Forever was that the world was ready to see Shuri's story continue as a new Black Panther, preferably in a third film. There's also the important nugget at the end of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which introduced T'Challa's son, ensuring Chadwick Boseman's legacy will continue in the MCU. News regarding Black Panther 3 has picked up ever since Denzel Washington shared his interest in joining the project, and now Coogler is revealing why he waited to make the Marvel flick. So he told Deadline that the reason he delayed Black Panther 3 is so he could make a movie that was in service of the stories that touched him personally, instead of being in service of other stories. All of his previous works, Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, were either already a part of established universes or were a real story that happened. For example, Creed was a spinoff of the Rocky franchise, and the two Black Panther movies are part of the Marvel Universe. As for Fruitvale Station, it was a real story that happened. That's not the case with Sinners, since it's an original story Coogler created that takes inspiration from his family members and their history in Mississippi. He said, "It's interesting for you to ask where Sinners came from. The timing, in timing it before Black Panther 3, it was my realization that I had been on this path of what I could make and what I wanted to make, and realizing they had all been in service of stories that were outside of myself." He elaborated further on the point he was making. He said, "But I still haven't brought something that was just me. And how funny is it that when I say, hey, I'm making a horror movie, and people are surprised. But if you know me, I love those movies. If I had to reckon with the fact that the audience doesn't truly know me, and I got scared that I would look up and be 50 and would still be in that situation, and by then I might not have anything to say. So the movie was made because I had to make it right now, and with the people that I wanted to make it with, it had to happen now, or if not, I wouldn't. I feared that, and that was why." So there's more to it, but that's pretty much why he wanted to make Sinners, and based on everything, it seems like he made the right choice. I'm not going to read this article. I'm just going to tell you the headline. Kingpin can't appear in Marvel movies because of rights issues. He can only appear in the TV shows. So for anybody who thought he was going to be in the new Spider-Man or anything else, he will not. All right. So do I want to read? I think I'll save that one because it's the one I alluded to. So there's a couple other bits. I'll do this DC story first. Because apparently the Batman Part 2 rumor has fans worried about the movie. And I hate rumors, but I'll read the article. So Batman 2 is still over 2 years away. The movie has already been delayed several times, and filming for the sequel has not yet begun. Now, a new rumor about the Batman Part 2 has fans worried about the status of the Caped Crusader. So Jeff Schneider, he's some insider, posted a screenshot of the Batman 2 in the latest issue of Production Weekly. The post includes information about when filming commences and who will be involved. Notably absent from the post is director Matt Reeves. While Reeves remains attached to as a writer, the blurb does not mention him as a director. In fact, no filmmaker is listed as the director. I don't get, okay, people are mad about stupid things. So moving on. There you go. Rumor. Have at it. Be mad at that if you want. Apparently, Deadpool and X-Men, and the X-Men, there's an MCU movie in the works with Ryan Reynolds helping to develop it. So Deadpool and the X-Men may be getting ready to team up, as The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Ryan Reynolds is exploring the idea of a Deadpool and an X-Men movie inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. THR report notes that while Ryan Reynolds was adamant he wouldn't be doing a solo Deadpool movie following Deadpool and Wolverine, that doesn't mean he's against coming back as the character. THR goes on to mention that he's been, quote, exploring ideas for what a new movie featuring Deadpool could look like, all of which also involve the iconic mutant group. The movie, according to The Hollywood Reporter, would feature 3 or 4 X-Men characters. Deadpool would appear, but would be more of a supporting player than an actual main character. This would allow the X-Men characters to shine and still allow the fan favorite Deadpool to appear and be up to his normal chaotic antics. The movie is also said to be separate from that of an actual official X-Men movie, which is being written by Michael Leslie and is set to properly introduce the group into the larger MCU. No word on what characters would be involved in that movie has been said as of yet, with the project still being discussed as being in the extremely early days and far from being a reality, so take that for what you will. And then the last bit of news is what I alluded to. Beau DeMayo bashes MCU's handling of Johnny Storm and Namor. So DeMayo created the first season of Disney Plus and Marvel's X-Men 97 show, which premiered in March 2024. He was fired. There's a whole drama. If you're interested in all that drama, I have a bunch of podcasts about it. You can look up Beau DeMayo in our podcast directory, and I'm sure you'll find all the things I talked about. So what X-Men 97's Beau DeMayo says about Johnny Storm and Namor, he said on X, he shared a statement that Joseph Quinn, who plays Johnny Storm in the MCU, told Entertainment Weekly about how his character will differ from Chris Evans' Human Torch. And so this is what what's his face Joseph Quinn had said. This is what Joseph Quinn said about the character. He said he was branded as this womanizing devil may care guy, but is that sexy these days? I don't think so. This version of Johnny Storm is less callous and with other people's feelings. And Beau DeMayo simply responded to that by saying they pulled this softening shit with Namor too. Which, hey, I ain't gonna lie, Namor is a little toned down, but I wouldn't say soft. You know, someone responded to that. They said, yeah, I don't like this. I want the character exactly as he was in the comics. Beau DeMayo said, there's a way to, if you wanted, tell a compelling story about a braggart white boy who lacks empathy and maybe is a little womanizing, who is checked and humbled after being transformed into a celebrity hero, where he himself is treated like a product and thereby... hold on. I don't know. I can't. It's cut off. I don't want to open it. But someone else said something, and Beau DeMayo says that telling this, story about him maturing, it would require storytelling, but Marvel doesn't do that anymore because no writer wants to work with a company where you are told Kevin is the celebrity in the face or the work, but working for us will help your career after. So he's still a little bit better. Someone said he was soft. Namor could have been way more violent. Beau said he came across as a traumatized child throwing a temper tantrum against a black nation, not a king. Someone responded, well, Namor is often petulant. No. Beau said another way of looking at it, Emma Frost, one of the reasons she's drawn to Namor is, like herself, he's petty. No one fucks with Emma. You screw up her coffee order, she's going to telepathically insert a bad childhood memory into your mind, so you spend the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's the thing, though. Like, it's all well and good, again, this comic book accuracy thing. But it really, like, this is the thing. There are so many different versions of characters in different people's stories, right? Like, at the core, there's something, but there's also this thing with Johnny Storm. Yeah, there's bits where he lacks empathy, and he cares about the wrong things at certain times and all this stuff, and he could be, quote-unquote, a bit womanizing, but not to the extent Chris Evans' version was. And also, there's other versions of the character that are not those things, right? And, like, where are we at a starting point here with the character, or are we down the line somewhere, right? Or has he already grown to something and still has room to grow in other ways with other departments of himself, or is he at the very beginning, right? Where sure, Beau DeMayo's story could be whatever, like he grows into this celebrity status guy he needs to be humbled or whatever, right? But again, and it's the same thing with Namor, like, you adapt things, right? You adapt characters, you make changes to suit your story in a lot of ways. And sometimes characters get shafted because of that. And yes, I'm not saying we should excuse all of it because it happens and it's necessary, right? Like, ultimately, the product dictates everything. And that's true of almost everything in the world. It depends on the quality of the product. If the quality of the movie is sensational and the writing works and the characters click and everything else, nobody gives a shit how comic book accurate it is, especially because most of the people who are paying to see the movie have never read a comic book in their life. Like, we can all throw our arms up and be gatekeepers and say, you don't belong in our fandom. Like, there's no MCU without people who don't read comic books. That's a fact. Like, you don't get to the point you're at because if as many people bought comic books as people who went to see Endgame, the comic book industry would be thriving. But it's not, because not that many people read comic books or continue to, which is why when Marvel was pushing to make their things more like comic books, super interconnected, all these movies coming out, all these TV shows coming out, boom, 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 let's pump it all out. They lost a lot there because there's too much and people can't keep up with it. People don't want to keep up with it. And now they're using a new strategy. Less is more, quality over quantity, not as many TV shows, not as many movies, not as much interconnectedness, one-offs, blah, 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 blah. Boom, there, right? And that may work better for them because it's very expensive to go to movies. It's very expensive to have subscriptions to all the sites that you need to watch all the shows and all that stuff, right? And so all of this is to say comic book accuracy is cool. It adds something for true diehard fans, but it's not those true diehard fans that really rake in the money, right? Like, those are the people that give them money in ways that are different. Memorabilia, comic books, all this shit behind me, right? Like, we're the ones who spend the money on the collectibles and things like that. But when it comes to ticket sales, the majority of those ticket sales are going to people who haven't picked up a comic book before or have read very few, right? Like, I guarantee you, there might be 10 people in the entire theater when I go see Fantastic Four that have read more than one run on it. Sorry, that have read any of it, right? Like, there's probably 3 people that have read an entire run in that theater of Fantastic Four, right? And I'm talking volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Most people haven't read those. Okay? It's just a reality. Most people haven't read. Most people don't know that Black Panther's first appearance was in Fantastic Four. Like, Fantastic Four's run in the 60s into the 70s was insane with the amount of characters that were introduced, the amount of things that were able to spin off of that. Like, it's insane, right? And Fantastic Four gets looked down on a little bit, I think, by modern audiences because it's had some not great movies and, it's more recent stuff in comics even that has been largely forgettable. When I say recent, I don't mean like the past couple years. I mean like the past 20-ish years. Like, there's some runs in there where you're like, this is pretty good. And there's others where you're like, whatever, like, okay. But like those early Fantastic Four runs, I mean, it doesn't hold up super well today because of some of the, like, it's very 50s, 60s, 70s-ish, right? Like, in the way it's written and in the times, that it was written in. But, I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying. But I'm going to wrap it up there. Just a short one. Just wanted to get some news out and talk a little bit and put out an episode. Chair wasn't available this week. He's had some stuff going on as far as, like, he's doing raids for, I don't know if they're WoW raids or something. He's doing raids in a video game on Wednesdays. He's had some plans that were prearranged already, so he wasn't available today. So I just wanted to put something out, and then hopefully next week we can link up and talk about some things. We'll see what happens kind of going forward. I'll be working weekends again for a while. Not every weekend. It's kind of like as I want kind of thing. But hey, you don't turn down money when money's knocking on the door. I'm saying so. I'll be doing a lot more work on the weekends, and maybe not during the week. So I maybe still available Wednesdays or Thursdays. Obviously, for releases, those are Thursdays. So Fantastic Four and Superman in July, we'll be seeing those. So we'll talk about those at some point. We'll talk about Thunderbolts at some point, and we'll finish off with Andor. Also, Tales of the Underworld, the new Star Wars series on Disney Plus. I have to watch all of that still. I haven't watched any of it, but that dropped on May 4th. And so, yeah, looking forward to checking that out and talking about that at some point as well. Of course, there are things we've neglected to talk about just because we either haven't had time or, there's just a lot coming out at once. I still want to talk about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man at some point because I really enjoyed that series. Maybe I don't need to talk about it any more than just saying I really enjoyed it. So, yeah. We'll cover things as they come. Much love. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe, do all those things. We'll see you next time